Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
Hey friends, welcome back. Another day, but part two of our interview with Olivier Melnick. His website, if you missed the first show, is NewAntiSemitism.com. That's NewAntiSemitism.com. His books are available on Amazon. We'll be talking about several of them today. And also his YouTube channel. Make sure to check out Shalom in Messiah Ministries. And at YouTube, you can just search Olivier Melnick if you're not already following him. So, in the first program, we talked about the cancer of anti-Semitism, and he defined it for us. We're going to touch on that a bit again. Talked a little bit about replacement theology, dual covenant theology, and we talked about the source of anti-Semitism, and we even connected some dots on what's going on today in our government and our college campuses and universities, and we did all that in just one show. So here's part two. I want to bring back in Olivier Melnick. Brother, thanks for extending this for us.
Well, thank you for having me again. I mean, we did cover quite a bit in the first program, but we can definitely do another show and probably more than one. But
my goodness,
let's see how much we can pack in this one.
Well, we could do 6 shows on just this one book. But anyway, to go back, if you're just watching this, guys, and you didn't see part one, Olivier, would you please just give us that definition of anti-Semitism for them?
Anti-Semitism is the irrational and demonic hatred of the Jewish people in Israel, characterized by thoughts, words, and or deeds against them. And again, in the first show, I emphasized that it is demonic, satanic, and because it's demonic, it's irrational, because you see what's happening in the world, and Satan can very easily make something look rational when it is irrational. I'll give you an example. When you have the radical left joining forces with radical Islam against Israel, when really you put a liberal leftist and a radical Muslim in the same room, they'll kill each other. But when it comes to go after Israel, they'll work together. It makes no sense.
Exactly. It's strange bedfellows. So you know Satan's behind some of this. So let's talk about what a lot of people don't understand. We hear BDS. We hear these, whether it's our government or policy-wise, BDS. And you write a lot in your book, Times AntiSemitism. And on page 264, you talk about boycott, divestment, and sanction. What the heck is that? And you mentioned also 3 bullet points about this and what the co-founder for BDS, how he explained it. So please tell us what that is and what we need to understand about that.
Okay, BDS is very pernicious. It's a movement that has been going on since 2005. I mean, actually, it's older than that. From the standpoint of being a boycott of Israel and Jewish people, you can go back to the 30s and 40s, really, when you started seeing, during Kristallnacht, when they were boycott businesses and put big Jewish stars on the front of businesses in Berlin and burned synagogues and killed Jewish people, which, by the way, was the November 1938 was the start of the Holocaust. Kristallnacht was that date. So you can go back that way. But looking at today, the modern iteration of BDS started in 2005. It was co-founded by Omar Barghouti, a Palestinian guy, and Mahmoud Abbas. And basically, they model their philosophy, so they say, on what happened in South Africa, to boycott South Africa when it was going, when they had the issues of racism, that some of that boycott in South Africa worked. So they said, we're going to do the same thing, but it's only against Israel. It's boycotting Israeli products, boycotting Israeli artists, personalities, movies, books, or and divesting from people that basically have business in Israel or even businesses in America or parts of the world who partner with Israeli companies. So they say, we don't want to support that. So we divest, we boycott, and we sanction all those things. And what's interesting to me is that they're so inconsistent. There's no ethical. It's not ethical at all. They're so inconsistent. They will boycott anything that's Israeli. So my question is, should you stop using a cell phone because cell phone technology was invented by Israel? Should you stop using an Intel computer because the Intel chip was invented by Israel? Should you not use a thumb drive because they were invented by Jewish people, by Israel? And what's interesting to me also is that Mr. Barghouti has a PhD from Tel Aviv University. That's Israel. So should he return his PhD because it really is not valid? It's an Israeli school, so they're not consistent. They're just but the world is going like, oh, again, not checking on historical accuracy, not checking on facts. The world is going, this is a good way to promote social justice and to do good. So I'm going to boycott Israel.
So did I misunderstand? While I was reading your book on that section on boycott, divestment, and sanction, and you said there are some in the Evangelical Church that somehow this is appealing to them, or they are supportive of this. Can you explain that?
Well, it's going to be appealing to some in the Evangelical Church simply because, again, Christians, the vast majority of Christians today, you know that, David, do not read their Bible. So they do not understand the place of Israel in the plan of God. They do not understand that the Palestinian narrative is a false narrative based on an agenda of a destructive agenda for the Jewish people. So they go like, well, the Jewish people in Israel, the Israelis have colonized and have occupied, and to stop that, we have to boycott. And there are people within the church, and those are the churches. There's some denomination within Christendom that will promote BDS because they think it's the right way to stop the occupier, the colonizer that Israel is, when in fact, Israel is not an occupier. You do not occupy a land that you own.
Okay. Go ahead.
No. Does that answer your question?
Yes. I didn't mention in this part two the titles of a couple of the books we're talking about, and I just want to do that briefly. The BDS section that we're talking about is in this book called End Times Antisemitism. We're also talking about The Time Is Now. We talked about that in our first program with Olivier Melnick. And the most recent book, The Normalization of Anti-Semitism, when the oldest hatred becomes the new normal. And we are in a scary place globally because of that truth, and it's become normalized. I want to go to the 3 points on page 265, claims that Israel must meet these 3 obligations, and you get your response if you want to explain them further. Number 1, ending its occupation and colonization of all Arab lands occupied in June 1967 and dismantling the wall. Number 2, recognizing the fundamental rights of the Arab Palestinian citizens of Israel to full equality. And number 3, respecting, protecting, and promoting the rights of Palestinian refugees to return to their homes and properties as stipulated in UN Resolution 194. And we know the UN has been anti-Israel for as long as I can remember, so many resolutions against Israel. But if you want to expand on any one of those 3 or share whatever you'd like, Olivier, to help us out.
Well, again, looking at those 3 points that Omar Barghouti made, basically, he is trying to. They rest on a false narrative, saying that you have to return the land, you have to stop the let me reread this. Respecting, protecting, and promoting the rights of Palestinian refugees. Palestinian refugees are Arabs who were forced to stay in the land of Israel when Israel became a nation. They were forced by their own people all around Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt. They were forced to stay, and they became refugees by by default, because they were not allowed to go back to their own countries, and then it became they became stuck in Israel. But the reality, David, is that inside Israel, Arabs inside Israel are treated very well. And what's interesting, when the world is joining forces with the people like Omar Barghouti and Mahmoud Abbas and the haters of Israel, they're joining forces to say, you know what, Israel is committing genocide and ethnic cleansing. Let me set the record here. And I think I put it in one of my books. I forgot which one it is, but let me set the record. There are 2 million Arabs today in living inside Israel. I'm not talking about the disputed territories. I don't call them occupied. I call them disputed.
Right.
I don't call, I'm not talking about Judea, Samaria. I'm not talking about Gaza. Arabs living inside Israeli territory, recognized, by that name. 2 million Arabs. That's about 1.5 million more than in 1948. That is the opposite of ethnic cleansing, my friend. Huh. Now, look at the Jews killed in the Holocaust. 18 million Jews, 6 million died, 12 million left. We have 15 million Jews in the world today. Still 3 million short of what we had before the Holocaust. That is ethnic cleansing.
Yep. And by the way, we've talked about this on the previous programs with other guests, but I want to get your take on their talking point that Israel is colonizing and what's the other word? They're occupiers. We've showed the map of Israel and all the surrounding nations, and a lot of us don't understand how they can get away with putting out that talking point. Can you help us understand that?
Well, and Israel is right now is the size of New Jersey, and you look at the map of the Arab world. It's I don't even know what percent it is, but when you scan the map of the Arab world and you look for Israel, that little red sliver, it's hard to find it.
Yes.
It's hard to find it. And it has nothing to do with them being occupiers. It has all to do with, again, the satanic desire to destroy all the Jews. I don't care if Israel is in the Middle East or if all the Jews lived in a different place of the world. Before they were given the biblical land of Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel in 1948, rightfully so, there were two proposals to move all the Jews back to either Uganda in Africa or the island of Madagascar. And they both said, they said, no, it's not going to work. We're going back to the land of Israel. But it would not matter if all the Jews were in the land on the island of Madagascar, southeast of Africa. There would still be an agenda, a global agenda today to destroy all of them because they're a thorn in the flesh of Satan, and he wants to get them all gone. So the false accusation of colonization and occupation, based on, you look at what's happening in Gaza right now. The Jews the Israelis are accused of occupation. There was not one Jew in Gaza. There's no occupation. Gaza is ruled by the Palestinian Authority, by Hamas, actually. So the Jewish people are not even allowed there. They don't go there. They're not. I mean, just that little strip of Gaza. They're not occupying anything. They're not there.
Yeah.
And so saying it's an occupation is wrong. Calling for a ceasefire. You didn't ask that question, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Yeah.
Calling for a ceasefire is wrong as well, because guess what? There was a ceasefire until October 6th. And then Hamas broke the ceasefire on October 7th.
Wow. And yeah, isn't it? We heard the quote paraphrased quite a bit. If they put down their weapons, there will be peace. If Israel puts down her weapons, there will be no more Israel. We've got to take a very quick break. We're with Olivier Melnick, and when we come back on Worldview Matters, we're going to be talking about the 3 Ds of anti-Semitism.
Today's show is brought to you by Harbinger's Daily. World news biblically understood. Stay informed at harbingersdaily.com.
And friends, as we talked about in the first program with Olivier, that there is an irrational hatred. It is demonic. That's what's driving all this. So it helps you understand why some people can hate the Jews and they might not even understand themselves why they hate the Jews. It is irrational. It is demonic. Forces of darkness are moving this whole thing. But before we continue, if you're listening to our podcast via audio, you can help us out by simply leaving a 5-star review to help our show rise in the rankings. I've learned that I guess that makes a difference. So also, if you're interested in sponsoring the program, we would love to work with like-minded businesses, and you can email us by going to worldviewmatters.tv. Send us a quick email. Let us know you might be interested in sponsoring the show. So, Olivier, before we get into the 3 Ds of anti-Semitism, in your book, your latest book, The Normalization of Anti-Semitism, you ask different pastors and church leaders, which I absolutely love, how you did this, 4 different questions, and you asked each one of them the same 4 questions. Could you explain, just their answers were almost unified or similar in some way, but they all gave a slightly different take. Why did you decide those are the 4 biggest questions you could ask all of these influential people in the evangelical and Christian community?
Well, they were, and the questions, we to put a little context in this, the one question was, do you think the church relationship with the Jewish people was a factor in the Holocaust, and how? And the next one was, what should Christians do differently today to bridge the gap between the Jewish community and the Christian community? Third one was, what do you think is the number one reason for the lack of Christian support of Israel? And fourth, what is to you the most convicting verse or passage of the Bible validating God's plan for Israel and the Jewish people?
Great
what
questions.
I did is I took those 4 questions and I asked, and all these wonderful Bible teachers, they're all friends. I wanted Gentile believers. That's why I didn't ask any Jewish believers. I have a few people I wanted to ask, but they're Jewish believers like myself. I wanted to ask Gentile believers who understand the Bible, who love Israel, who love the Jewish people, to give me their take on this, those 4 questions too. And they all came up with, their own version of the fact that, if anybody reads the Bible properly, they'll find out that Israel is all throughout the pages of the Bible. God is not finished with Israel. God has a great plan for Israel that is going to kind of reconvene, and finish his plan for Israel throughout the 7-year tribulation, the time of Jacob's trouble, and that doing anything against the Jewish people is working against God and against his covenants. So the reason why I put those guys in there, I'm hoping that if Jewish person who doesn't know Yeshua, who doesn't know Jesus, get this book in their hands, they go like, oh, wow, there's a bunch of Bible teachers, they're Christians, and they actually love Israel and the Jews. Right now, we need, and this is why I did that, really, we need to tell our Jewish friends, our Jewish co-workers, neighbors, family members, maybe, we need to let them know, I've got your back. Because right now, globally, the Jewish community is very, very scared of what's happening. And they fear for their lives.
Yeah,
I got a lot of family where I'm from, France, and life is becoming miserable for Jewish people. The numbers for Aliyah, for making the law of return in Israel, are spiking again, because a lot of Jewish people in Europe are going like, we're done. And even though there's a war in Israel right now, it's still safer to live in Israel than to live anywhere in the world.
That says a lot. That says a lot right there. And friends, I just want to mention who Olivier reached out to for these questions. David Reagan, Mike Spalding, Mondo Gonzalez, Mark Hitchcock, Todd Hampson, Tommy Ice, Brandon House, Brandon Holthouse, Andy Woods, Don Perkins, Tom Hughes, William Koenig, and Billy Crone. So Olivier, before we go on to the 3 Ds of anti-Semitism, I want to go to question number 3 and get your brief response. What do you, Olivier Melnick, think is the number one reason for the lack of Christian support of Israel?
When I look at, I've been doing this for 23 years, and I think it's the illiteracy of Christians. They do not read their Bible. We have failed. This current generation, of the younger generation, not interested in churches, not interested in going to church or anything Christian. We, as in our generation and older, we have failed in discipling them and getting them excited about being believers. So now they're walking away from the church. And alongside that, of course, you've got this postmodern view of everybody has to, we all have to get along, and the word I'm looking for is I can't think of the word right now, but lack of education is probably the number one. They don't know what they're talking about. They're not interested. So anything that sounds good, that sounds like it's going to be bringing justice, they jump on it. And of course, again, the irrational aspect of social justice for the Palestinians, who have now become, under the new anti-Semitism, the new victims, and the Jews have become the new Nazis of the Middle East. I just did a message at a church last Sunday on on what's happening since October 7th, and I show a series of cartoons and that have been published, especially by Arab cartoonists, and every single one of those cartoons portrays Israel in a way that is exactly what is being done to the Jews. The Jews control the press, which is one of the oldest tropes, but it's not true. The world is going against, the press is spreading lies against Israel, against the Jewish people. And so all those different cartoons, they show exactly what the enemy is trying to do. And they're painting Israel as being the enemy, but Israel, when you look at how Israel is handling the war, and every war they've had, what country in the world, according to conventional war methods, would drop leaflets hours before they bomb and say, tomorrow at this address, we are going to drop a bomb. Get out. Run for your life. This is not conventional warfare. This is taking care of human beings. I mean, there is another cartoon I saw when you have an Israeli soldier on his knees with a gun like this, and behind him is a little baby being protected, and then you have on the other side a Palestinian soldier putting a baby in front of him as a shield. And that's what's happening. I mean, I think for those who are really interested in the truth, if they look at what's happening with the United Nations organization, the UNRWA, right now, that was actually millions were funneled into that organization to help humanitarian crisis with the Palestinians. And some of the people over there actually, sponsored by United Nations, ended up being actors in October 7th war terrorist attack against Israel. That's how bad it is, and the world is not paying attention.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's one of the reasons is the propaganda is off the charts, because the left controls the narrative. The Jews don't run the press and the media. Oh, my goodness. I mean, just look at what's coming out of there. And anyway, we've got to move on to the 3 Ds of anti-Semitism before we run out of time.
Okay. By the way, if we run the press, we would make sure that we look better for the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So the 3 Ds of anti-Semitism, I haven't found in all my research in all the years a better way to determine if something is anti-Semitic or not. And this was originally written and explained by Natan Sharansky, who is a Soviet refusenik who came to Israel, and he worked a lot with the Aliyah program, bringing Jews to the land. And he said, if anything falls under the 3 Ds, any event or a person or a statement of any of those 3 Ds, it is anti-Semitic. And they are demonization, delegitimization, and double standards. Demonizing the Jews, saying that the Jews are evil people that kill that kill poor Palestinians. During the Middle Ages, the Jews were accused of killing Christian babies to draw their blood to mix in the unleavened bread for Passover, which is ridiculous, because under kosher law, the first thing we get rid of is the blood. So that's exactly ignoring the facts and just a big lie about the Jews. That's demonization. Delegitimization is basically saying the Jews do not belong in Israel. They do not. The land is not theirs. It's not it's not legitimate for them to live there. They have to get out. They have nowhere to go, so we're going to get rid of them. And then double standard. Well, just look at the United Nations and tell me if you do not see a double standard. All those proposition that are the resolution that have been passed against Israel, the number of those against one little country as opposed to the rest of the world, like Sudan and China and Iran, Nobody talks about those people killing their own people, but Israel, focal point. That's double standard.
Yeah. Oh, tons of resolutions against Israel. And this is a history that goes back. But before we run out of time, and it's getting close, Olivier, what can true biblical Christians do other than, of course, keeping an eye out for our Jewish friends and neighbors and sharing the truth of the Messiah, of Jesus, with them? What else can biblical Christians do? Speak up, maybe, on social media. Go ahead.
Oh, man, David, I wish we can do another show on this. Maybe we should.
Let's do it.
I am part of a network that started being developed 3.5 years ago. Now, it's not a ministry. It's a secret network, like a underground railroad for Jewish people. And we've been organizing like-minded Christians in America, but also in the rest of the world, to prepare themselves to rescue and shelter Jewish people. It was way before October 7th. And what's happening is that right now I get a lot of Christians reaching out to me saying, Olivier, count me in. My house will be open for a Jewish person, a Jewish family. And that network is, if people want to be part of it, again, it's a secret network. We are not on the web. We don't advertise. We don't raise money, but it's called Bridges to Zion. So if people go to Bridges, Zion, bridges2zion.com, they can sign up for that network. There's no fee. We don't charge money. We don't take money. It's just like-minded Christians saying it's time to redeem the past and really do better than some Christians 80 years ago did not do when they became bystanders.
Yep.
And I could explain this in great detail if we maybe do another show, but I'm not trying to push myself on your show.
No, I want you to promise. I want to get you on record that we're going to do another show on this.
Okay, I promise.
Well, friends, make sure to go to newantisemitism.com. And this is a short read. This book is the most recent, The Normalization of Anti-Semitism. Make sure you check that out. It's on Amazon. And we're just so thankful for the work and the years of research that we can glean from as true biblical Christians and evangelicals. And from Olivier, we just thank you for your time. What a blessing today. We'll do another show down the road a little bit in the near future. But brother, God bless you. May he enlarge your territory and continue to give you good success.
Thank you. Shalom.
All right. Thank you. Shalom. Shalom. All right. Olivier Melnick. The books are great. Again, they're available on Amazon, friends. Who do we have tomorrow? Where's the list here? Pastor Claude Stauffer's got a book out. He did an extensive study on the book of Romans, and chapters 9 through 11 are in there, I'm sure. So that's tomorrow. We'll be talking with him. And then Mark and Amber Archer of Fearless Features. They've got a phenomenal documentary called Dysphoria. I watched it yesterday. It is eye-opening, and we'll talk to them on Thursday. God bless you guys, and as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.